Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Customer Experience R&R with my good self, Richard Knight.
And I remembered today, Rich.
Well done. And it's nice to have Ryan here because we planned to record this on Tuesday of this week, but a certain person didn't rock up. I'm fine with that now. I've got over it. Having said that, I called you a friend on the last episode, and then you just dropped me. I mean, it's just unbelievable. There was something better to do, was there? Hey, apologise to the audience. Come on.
I'm really sorry, audience. Yeah, but however, the good news is we're recording in time for you to listen to our warbling weekend. So my sincerest apologies. I got my head stuck up my bottom, and I was doing something else. So what are we going to warble about today then? We've got no guests, just me and you, isn't it, today?
It is just us, but that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing because there's things been going on this week that we thought we'd better warble about. Coming from that big city in Londinium town, they've created some of these new laws that some people might not be aware of, and actually the impact could be quite considerable in terms of businesses, and then also the impact on customers, which is ultimately what we're here talking about, aren't we? And then we're actually going to have a little bit of a chat, as we mentioned last week. Because this is episode 20.
Wow.
This is 20. Can you believe it? Yeah, you haven't caught up with us yet. No. That we're actually going to be talking a little bit more about readiness for 2021 when we've got rid of this interesting year and we've moved into another interesting year, which I'm sure it will be. We're going to be talking about that customer experience readiness and how perhaps we can look at that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. A couple of things. Anything else from your point of view?
Do them laws up they make in Londinium, are they relevant down here in the West Country?
So they're relevant all over the country, aren't they? So this is to do with the COVID-19 and employers being what's the word I'm looking for? Being at fault and potentially being fined between £1,000 and £10,000 now if they allow a member of their team to return to work when that member of team has tested positive for COVID-19 and have not done the self-isolation piece and actually have come back into the workplace and may well, obviously there is a good reason behind it because we don't want to spread this. However, not many people know about this because actually this came through on Sunday afternoon. They created the document. If you look at the actual document itself, and we'll put the link in the chat underneath this so that people can go and have a look at it. Actually, they can go in and have a look at that. And this was created on Sunday afternoon and then was passed early Sunday evening, and then actually came into law on Monday. So,
bloody hell, that's efficient.
I know, it's amazing how quickly they can bring it through if they can fine you for stuff, isn't it? So what we're seeing is, what the issue is for all the businesses out there, ourselves included, is that the government seem to be manoeuvring the responsibility for what's going on here to the employer. So if you are at fault, you will get fined. Now, it is up to the employee to also let you know, but if they don't do that, the employer then is also potentially can get fined if that is discovered if the track and trace works, if they actually find out that one of your employers had come into the workplace. Now, if they're working remotely, obviously it's not much of a problem, but the thing that we now know is that businesses are doing a bit of both, aren't they? You know, there's that bit of working from home and then maybe coming to the office. I know there's a number of solicitor firms that are doing week in the office, week out the office, and they're doing a rotation around that sort of effect. Now, this can cause some problems, and the key thing from what we talk about here is that it actually can have a big impact on the business, and therefore the knock-on effect to the customer is what we're thinking about here.
Yeah. So let me get this right then. So old Boris has put a law together that says that if an employee comes to work and doesn't tell, there isn't sufficient provision in place by the employer for the employee to tell the employer that they've got COVID symptoms, and then there's a COVID outbreak, the employer is responsible for and could be fined because they've not created that communication channel to take action.
Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell, because if you try and decipher the document, like all of these things, all of these laws, it is incredibly difficult to look through all of these herewiths and thence for, and the employer is, it is very, very difficult to actually decipher it all. So what we're trying to do is make it as easy as possible, aren't we? We always talk
Yeah.
about that from a customer experience point of view. Let's make it simple as possible. So from our point of view, what could you possibly do as an employer to cover the potential that one of your staff might have COVID and have not told you, and to avoid those potential fines that could come through? I mean, I don't think anybody's wanting £10,000 fine landing on, in the old inbox at the moment.
But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But ultimately, this is about getting your people fit and healthy to work to give your clients and your customers a great experience, isn't it? That's the point. You're trying to keep your business running through all of these challenges. And look, it was really interesting. I was reading an article this morning before I took the dog out, and effectively, what the article was saying was that although Professor Whitty and the other chap got up yesterday and said with the Prime Minister, look, things are slipping. I saw an article this morning that actually said that maybe the rule of six and some of the local lockdowns are actually having a positive impact, and those cases are beginning to slow.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, you're hearing all kind of things on the local news, aren't you, about there's been an outbreak in this employer and that employer and this school and that business. So we have got to live with this. But more importantly, not only have we got to live with this, we've got to continue to run our businesses and look after our people and our customers, which is the point you're making, Rich, brilliantly well.
Absolutely. So we've got something that can assist with that as well.
We have. We've been talking about it. We've talked about it a number of times. So we've got our COVID wellbeing checker that employers can use, and effectively it's a ridiculously cheap price for the first 3 months, and then it's a very, very good price after 3 months. But effectively what it does is it tracks the well-being sentiment of your people. It tracks whether they feel safe at work, and you can ask the question, have you had COVID symptoms? So as an employer, you are doing all of the right stuff to make sure that you are creating the communication channels to prove the due diligence that the government are looking for.
Yeah.
Now that's a great example, isn't it, of being ready for something like this. And I want to sort of move the conversation on, if I can, to talk about that. We've talked a lot in these 20 episodes, haven't we, about the new normal, having a plan, how are people going to access your products, your services, your systems, all that kind of stuff. The listeners are probably going, oh, here they go again. But we have now identified at Insight 6 a really good way of understanding whether your business is ready to give a great client or customer experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell me a bit more about that, Rich, because you've had a lot to do with the development of that.
So in terms of being able to sort of have that instant view of the world and understand where you sit in terms of an overall customer experience readiness score, if you like. Because often we sit there and we go, yeah, well, what do I actually do when it comes to customer experience in our organisation? Yeah, we know we pick up the telephone and we say, hello, so-and-so, Insight 6, Richard Knight speaking, how can I help you? And we do those, there's those things, and that's really good for customer service, isn't it? But actually, we know that customer experience is a broader view of the world. It's everything about your brand and your organisation, whether people are interacting directly with you or not. So there are 4 zones in terms of a readiness for a customer experience readiness in an organisation. And the 4 zones are the risk zone, awareness zone, breakthrough zone, and impact zone. Okay, so we've got 4 zones there. In terms of what that means, so the risk zone sounds, pretty obvious. If your organization does not recognize the importance of your customers and put them in the middle of what you do, you're at risk of alienating your customers and them going somewhere else. Because if you're focusing purely on that product and price, then, and not around the experience that your customers are actually having, they have a much more opportunity and will willingly find your product and your service and your price probably cheaper somewhere else. And they'll go and they'll move quickly. We know that's the case. Internet shopping, social media, people are telling people about everything. So if you're not focusing on it, you're at risk of losing your customers. It's that leaky bucket. They're disappearing. Where are they going? We don't know. And those are the organizations that are not understanding that customer experience is a key differentiator when it comes down to your brand now and the amount of business you do. So that's the risk zone. For those who
so if you've got a business, or if you've got, so how would I know if my business is in the risk zone?
So what we've got is, in terms of all of these zones, we're actually providing 12 questions. They're very, very quick. It takes 5 minutes to fill in 12 questions to understand which of those zones you fit into. And those questions cover a number of categories. So what I'll do is I'll finish talking about the zones, and I'll just give you an insight into these questions so you can understand a little bit more about where they land. But I think the important thing at the moment is for the people listening and watching, you can actually think, well, actually, where do I sit at the minute? You know, which one am I fitting in at? So are you at risk? Are you completely not thinking about the customer? I don't think there's many people in that bracket, but you never know. There may still be people who are just thinking, oh, I've got to chase the money. I've got to concentrate on the product, particularly now because the environment's changed. You know, when we're under a lot more stress from a business point of view, you know, and a lot of people go, well, I don't need to worry about the customer. All I need to worry about is my processes and the way I do things and the product and the price, and then people will buy it. They won't. We know they want an experience more so these days. So that's the risk zone. For those people who are in the awareness zone, they've gone, do you know what? Customers make the difference. I've got to focus on them. So that's the awareness piece. It's just the little bit of the light bulbs come on and they've gone, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. So that's really interesting from the awareness zone, is the fact that they've realized that there is a differentiator, and that is customer experience. Mm-hmm. Those sort of firms are the people who are perhaps doing a little bit of insight gathering. So they're sending out the odd feedback survey. They're thinking about things like net promoter score and thinking, well, where do we land? And they may be gathering some of this data, and they might even be asking their employees, how are you at the minute? But they're not generally doing anything with that detail. Okay, so they're aware of it. They're starting to gather some information. They're looking at what their customers are saying, but it's not forming part of a plan. It's just generally ad hoc stuff. So those companies that fall in the breakthrough zone, they're the ones who are starting to get the plan in their head. Okay, they've identified that they need to inspire their organization to want to focus on customer experience. And that inspire part is around leadership and having a goal for their customer experience strategy, and then telling the employees about it, using the insight to work towards that goal. So those are the organizations, they're getting a breakthrough. They're seeing it's making a difference. They can see that asking their customers what they feel can make a difference to what the product is or the way they interact with their customers. And therefore their customers are fulfilled, have more confidence in them, and will stay with them. Nice and simple. And then finally, the impact zone. These are the guys, these are the organizations who make the difference with their customer experience strategy. And they are seen as the leaders in terms of customer experience. They're the ones who change the way they do things and other people start following. So if we're thinking where the organizations land, we might be thinking something like Amazon, whether you love them or loathe them. They have changed the way people do business to fit in with the customer's needs and expectations. And we now know we can click a button and get something in 24 hours. And if it's not right, it goes straight back.
It's a great point, isn't it? Because, you know, if you think of some of the businesses at the moment that are really struggling, some, to be fair, through no fault of their own, through the result of the pandemic, you kind of look at that risk zone and you kind of go, do you know what? There are probably some of our discount retailers that sit in that risk zone because they trade on their operation, they trade on price, they trade on pilot high, sell it cheap. You know, the experience in the stores is all right, isn't it? You know, go to the next till. All right, come over here. You know, but
that, you work there? Have you worked there?
Well, you know, that voice? Yeah, quite a good hourly rate actually. And then you go to the awareness zone, and I'd say the awareness zone is probably where most of our supermarkets and some of our high street retailers are. They're aware that they've got to do something, so they might ask some survey questions. They may ask. You know, they may have people that are proactively helping and supporting customers, out and about in their businesses. And then you've got the breakthrough zone where, from what you're saying is that people, businesses are thinking of how they can improve. And I had a really great conversation this week with a new client, and they're a property management business based down in Truro. And the son of the business rang me and said, Ryan, we want some help. We really want to understand. So they're definitely in the awareness now, but they want to move through to this breakthrough zone, and they want some really good baseline detail of A, what their customers think, B, what their staff think, and then C, they want to put in a program to really help create that customer centricity within the organization. So whenever the organization is making a decision, they're making it with the customer sat on their shoulder going, will this work? Will this work for the customer? So that breakthrough zone is, considering how they're going to improve. And I know they're going to be really successful. And then you're right, that impact zone are those really, in my mind, would be those really, retailers like Amazon, like Ocado, people that kind of sit ahead of the curve. They're constantly thinking about using that customer insight to constantly improve the customer journey. And it's sometimes I think we carried out some work down here in Devon and Cornwall through a group of thought leaders that I work with called the Southwest CX Group. We did a survey over the summer, and one of the things that came out was over half the people we surveyed said they didn't really know where to start with this stuff. And I get that, because if you're thinking about your cash flow, you're thinking about engaging your team, if you're thinking about selling your stock, if you're thinking about updating your website, your marketing plan, all that stuff that has to happen, often the customer gets forgotten, not through anybody's fault, just through the fact that they're so this is about training your business mind to stop all of that noise around you and go, actually, what is it my customers want? So these readiness levels sound great in terms of focusing them on. So when these 16 questions, what happens then once you answer them? Presumably you get told what zone you're in, is that right?
12 questions, get it right. 12 questions. 12 questions.
12 questions.
And they're based around 6 key areas of customer experience, and it's based on the Insight 6, the I6 model. So one of them we talk about inspiring, and I mentioned that inspiring your leaders and your teams to actually want to focus on customer experience, and that means setting a goal. That means sitting down and actually working out what is great customer experience for our organization. So that's sort of one area that you can gather insight into, and work out whether are we doing that, and how, to what extent are we doing it. And then in terms of the insight gathering sort of section as well, how much insight are you actually gathering? Because a lot of people go, oh yeah, no, we go for feedback. Yeah, we get feedback. But actually, how often do you ask for it? Because it's not just about sending one survey out a year to your customers, with 30 questions on, and amazingly enough, you get 5% response rate from the two firms that you work with really closely, and they really like you. So you've got to really challenge your thinking about where you actually are and how ready are you for 2021 and the CX side of things. So those 12 questions take 5 minutes to fill in, as I mentioned, and then what happens is that we actually are able to generate a nice sort of report for you, gives you the zone that you sit in. And because we're great people, particularly down here in the Southwest, we give you some actions that you can actually look at for the particular area of the zone you're in.
What people
I know, exactly. Go and do something. I know, isn't it good? Isn't it good?
You involved drinking cider.
I know. So some actions, so you can actually things you can go and do and think about, and actually go, right, okay, so this is where we need to get to next. But of course, it's scary. People go, oh, I don't want to fill that in because I might actually, realise that I'm not quite where I need to be, and then that'll mean I'll have to put loads of time and loads of effort into all of it. But actually, there's small things you can do to move yourself up these zones and into the different zones. Now, getting to the impact zone is not the easy thing to do. There's not many organisations that populate that one, and they are the leaders. People follow them. So that's where the holy grail, if you like, in terms of getting towards it. But if you don't look at it, and your readiness, then you'll never know where you are.
Do you know what, just cutting across you, do you know what I think? If you're a leader of an organization listening to this, and you are fearful of what the result might be from you completing that survey, you're already moving from the risk zone to the awareness zone, personally, because you want to understand. And if you answer it honestly, you know what, you may not want to share it with your organization, but I tell you what, from a strategic perspective in your own mind, you're going to be sat there going, yeah, I know I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And actually 2021 is the year I want to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, today's warble really is about, there's a couple of things for me that have come out. It's about having the measurement tools in place to support and help you on this really tricky journey at the moment of running a business, right? It's not easy. We all know that's the case, you know, whether it's new laws coming in from the government, you know, have you got systems and processes in place to help your people feel safe so that they can deliver for your customers and help your customers feel safe? And then, which is now, isn't it? That's the challenge for today.
Immediate, yeah.
But then looking ahead, you know, business leaders like our good selves, Rich, have to keep one eye on the horizon. 2021 is, I hate to tell you, is only 3 months away. You know, we're recording this on the 1st of October, so it's not long. But it gives you a quarter to start thinking about, how am I going to launch in the new calendar year, or indeed in the new financial year in April, which isn't that far away either. So even if you're not thinking about sort of launching this business-wide, if you're a business owner, contact us, and we can help you with the readiness, you know, getting ready for the changes that are going to come. It's so important keeping that eye on the horizon, because when we do get through this, and we will, you know, I often think, I was watching Piers Morgan, who you love him. He was interviewing Sir Tom Moore on his life stories, and I watched it, and it's one of the most inspirational ones I've ever seen. One of the things he said, Rich, was there's always a brighter day coming. And at 100 years old, you know, he's lived through the war and all those other things that he's gone through. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and we have to hold on to that. So make that light even brighter by being prepared for the future and knowing which direction you want to go in, would be my top tip from today's warble. If
you've liked what we've been warbling about, please do like, share, comment. It'd be great to get this out to other people so they can hear what about the warblings from the West Country. And next week, number 21, episode 21. Well, we'll surprise you. I think we'll surprise everybody.
We'll come of age next week.
Oh, 20, we will. Key to the door.
Key to the door. Key to the door. I think we should just have a massive celebration and just sit and drink cider and talk about all the amazing ciders down here.
Come on then. Yeah, that'd be great. A bit of a tasting. Well, I think we should actually. Let's have a chat about that one. Anyway, I've been Richard Knight.
I've been Ryan Huxtable. Have a lovely week.